nerds? My name's Meredith, but you can call me Mare, and today I'm going to be telling you every single thing I wish I had known before I studied abroad. Fair warning, this is probably going to be a pretty long video. I'm going to try to edit all of my excess rambling out of it so that it doesn't take an entire day for you to watch it. Because I know you've got things to do. I have things to do. I need to finish filming this video before the sun sets and give myself enough time to be able to finish an assignment that's due at midnight, so we're both on a bit of a time crunch here, so you're gonna have to work with me. And the sun's gone down. Good. There's nothing in that cup. Anyways, let's get into it. I'd like to preface this video with the fact that most of this advice is going to be centered around studying abroad in Europe, and more specifically UK and Ireland, and that's because I've only studied abroad in London and Galway, Ireland, so I feel like a lot of this stuff can be generalized about any study abroad trip, but just to let you know ahead of time, I only have experience with England and Ireland specifically. I've traveled to a few other countries within Europe, but my specific study abroad experience only consists of the UK and Ireland. Okay, now that we've gotten that out of the way, my #1 tip for studying abroad is don't watch Taken. You know the Liam Neeson movie where his daughter takes a trip with her friend to Europe and they get takens and Liam Neeson has to come in and kill a bunch of people and save the day? You know the one. Yeah, so watching that movie is only going to make you scared of going to Europe and traveling and doing everything you want to do while you're there. If you have seen it, you can probably agree with me that that entire movie could have been avoided if Liam Neeson's daughter and Liam Neeson's daughter's friend were a little bit smarter and used their common sense. I'm not saying you shouldn't take chances and be spontaneous. That's why I'm saying you shouldn't watch the movie, because then you'll be afraid to do things like that. All I'm saying when I say don't be stupid is don't put your health and safety at risk. Actually, you know what? You can be stupid, but only if your father is Liam Neeson. Not if your friend's father is Liam Neeson, because, you know, we all know what happened to the friend. And if your parents watch Taken, like mine did, they'll probably want to track your phone, like mine did. And you're just going to be getting a lot of texts that say something like,
"Hey, are you in a lake? Are you in the canal? The GPS is showing me that you're in the canal."
And I'm just like, yeah, Mom, I was skinny dipping.
In the middle of the night. In December.
In Ireland. That's my phone.
Yeah, so that's what would come of that. So just avoid the movie altogether. Watch something else instead. Maybe Mamma Mia 2. Alright, my next point is that you should be realistic. Don't go into this experience with grand Lizzie McGuire-esque expectations. Yes, this experience can absolutely change your life, but please keep two things in mind. #1, this once-in-a-lifetime experience for you is just a regular day for the people living and studying in the location you're going to. And it's going to feel like that a lot. You're going to feel like you're having a lot of normal average days, even though you may be in London instead of the backwoods of North Carolina. Not every day is going to be some magical fairy tale. You're living and studying, but just in a new place. And #2, you're still bringing you with you. All of your insecurities, all of your baggage, it's coming with you. You don't get to leave any of that at home. You still bring your own personality and your fears and all that with you. So keep that in mind. You're not going to become a completely different person just because you're in a different location. The experience itself won't change you. You have to change you. For me, when I studied abroad the first time, I did 6 weeks in London. And honestly, one of the biggest steps I took on that trip was figuring out how to take the tube by myself. And then when I went to Ireland for a whole semester, I made it a point to try and push myself as far as I could to face my fears and enjoy the experience to its fullest. I planned extensive solo trips by myself, I ate dinner by myself at restaurants, I went on a few Tinder dates, I witnessed the Paris riots, I tried to speak French in Paris, I figured out Italian public transportation on the fly.
Ate enough cheese to permanently ruin my digestive system.
I went to the Crimes of Grindelwald midnight showing in Glasgow. The movie was very disappointing, but the point remains. Do things that scare you, don't be afraid to do things on your own, and you'll come back with the best memories you could possibly imagine. All these things happened because I pushed myself to do them. They didn't just fall in my lap because I was abroad. I had to seek out things I wanted to do by myself, and I mean, sometimes they worked better than others, but I mean, that's part of the adventure. Alright, the next point I want to make is you need to pick the right program for you. If you're watching this video, you've probably already picked your study abroad program, but on the off chance that you haven't, let me break it down for you. First, you're going to have to ask yourself why you want to study abroad. Do you want to take classes or do you want to have an internship? Do you want to take a lot of weekend trips and travel around Europe while you're there? Or do you want to have a full immersive experience, especially if you're trying to learn a new language and you just want to stay in the same relative area the whole time? What length of program would work best for you? I did a summer session with the King's College London summer programs, and then this past fall I studied at the National University of Ireland in Galway for a whole semester. Here are some things you should probably keep in mind about which time you choose to study abroad and which length you choose. Summer programs are the shortest, obviously, so you won't have as many weekends for weekend travel if that's something as important to you. And another thing that I didn't really know before I went was they don't really have summer school in the UK and Ireland and the rest of Europe for the most part, so the students you're going to be taking classes with are mostly international students who are also doing study abroad programs. This isn't really the best way for you to meet local students if that's a really big goal of yours. As for semester programs, I highly recommend going for a semester. If that's the longest you can do, you're probably going to have to choose between doing a spring program or a fall program. And it was really important to me to be able to do a fall program, which is why I waited until the fall of my senior year instead of doing the spring of my junior year, because I really wanted to be in Europe around Christmas time, and I wanted to go to some Christmas markets, and fall is my favorite season, so I thought, why not make it better? But a lot of people want to go to Europe during the spring because there are lots of cool things going on in the spring. It's a beautiful time of year, and if you go in the spring, you're probably more likely to see some snow if that's more important to you. As for year-long programs, I haven't done a year-long program. I really wish I did, and I wish that my biology degree would have allowed me the time to do a year-long program, because by the end of my semester program, I felt like I was just starting to get really, really close to some of the people that I had met, and if I had been able to stay for a year, I really feel like I would have been able to enjoy those friendships I had spent a whole semester developing. And sure, now I'm trying to plan trips to visit everyone, but I mean, I think if you really want to be fully immersed and really experience what it's like to study in a different country at a different university, try to do a year-long program. But if it seems like too much, do one of the shorter ones. So you picked your program, now it's time to pack. Honestly, I should probably do a separate video for this, and if you want any more information, you can always ask me in the comments or request a whole separate video about advice on things to pack, but I'm going to try to go through everything I wish I had known as quickly as possible. Number one tip, if you can fit everything into one large suitcase, do it. The maximum you should be bringing for a semester or even really a year program is one large suitcase, a carry-on suitcase, and a backpack. And I know you feel like you can't fit everything you would need for a whole semester or a whole year in just one big suitcase, possibly a carry-on, but let me remind you, if you're a college student like I am, you probably just keep rotating the same 10 outfits a semester anyways, so make sure to Marie Kondo that shit, and make sure all the clothes you bring not only spark joy, but also are easy to pack and wash. Don't bring anything you're going to have to dry clean or anything like that. It's possible over there, but is it really worth the effort? Especially if you're into traveling, you should probably make sure that your clothes are comfortable and are things that you could walk around in for a long time. And if it matters to you, make sure they're clothes that you like to see yourself in pictures, because you're probably going to be taking pictures and posting them all over Facebook and Instagram. So you're going to want to make sure that you feel comfortable and confident in what you're wearing so that you feel confident enough to post these pictures of the amazing things you're doing. Also, you're probably going to end up buying clothes while you're there because you want to fit in with what the locals are wearing. For example, when I was over there, I bought some plaid pants because I noticed a lot of people were wearing those. I also bought a couple sets of tights because I don't wear tights a lot in my daily life back home, but they were super popular with skirts in Ireland, so I decided, you know, if you can't beat them, join them. As for outerwear, the number one thing that I would bring if you're going to be studying abroad in the wintertime in Europe is a knee-length black puffy jacket, waterproof, with a hood. Everyone there wears them, you will fit in perfectly, it'll keep your jeans from getting soaked if it's raining, like it always was in Ireland, and it's stylish, matches everything. You'll fit in great, it's perfect. Highly suggest doing that. I have one from Target, I have one that I got from Mountain Warehouse when I was over there. Fantastic. Another thing I have been curious about before I went is leggings. A lot of people are like, oh, people dress up so much more when you're over there. You shouldn't wear leggings, you'll stand out as an American. And I was like, well, yeah. She's loud. American. But yeah, leggings I feel like would fit in absolutely fine if you're going to class or if you're hiking or traveling or obviously in an airport. I mean, especially if you put like a normal shirt with it. One thing I would recommend that you bring that will make you stand out as a tourist is bring a hat or a sweatshirt from your home university. You can kind of rep where you're from while you're over there, and it can be a great conversation starter. I had a sweatshirt that said North Carolina that I got from the UNC bookstore, and I would wear it all the time over there. And people almost everywhere where I was wearing the sweatshirt would come up and ask me, oh, are you from North Carolina? Obviously I'd say yes. And they'd say something like, oh, my son goes to school there, my family's living there now, I know people from there, what part are you from? And it's a great way to accidentally start conversations. So, as for shoes, I would highly recommend bringing comfortable but still versatile and kind of stylish tennis shoes. I wore some white Adidas Superstars almost the whole time I was there. I wore it with dresses and skirts, I wore it with leggings, I wore it with jeans, I wore them with everything, and they were super comfortable and great for being a tourist and walking around, so I would highly suggest having a really versatile tennis shoe like that. I'd also recommend bringing some gym tennis shoes if they're not the same as the one from my previous point. I'd also recommend, depending on your location, bringing some hiking boots, because it's always great not only to check out the cities in your area, but also to be able to hike around and explore the natural side of where you're staying. Also, hiking boots are very comfortable and they can double as walking shoes, and if you buy them waterproof, you don't have to bring rain boots. I would also suggest bringing some nicer shoes, either like ankle boots or ballet flats. Heels are not necessary, but I would bring something nicer because in some clubs or restaurants they may have like a dress code, which is a bit more of a common thing in Europe, I think. I've never had a problem with it, but I've heard some people tell me that you should always have a backup shoe just in case. So I had some black ankle boots that I brought with me that worked fine. And if you're going to be in any kind of warm climate, which I was not when I was in Ireland, but you can bring some flip-flops, or Birkenstocks are popular there and here, so that would be a good option. And if you're planning on staying in a dorm or traveling to hostels, I would highly recommend bringing some shower shoes. As for bedding, I packed sheets, but then when I was there, I bought a giant soft throw blanket and a pillow. You don't even have to pack your sheets. I just didn't feel like spending the money, but they didn't take up enough. They took up so little room that it was worth it. Pro tip, I didn't want to leave behind that nice throw blanket I had gotten in Ireland, so I threw it around my neck and wore it as a massively oversized blanket scarf in the airport, and at least from my experience, security didn't stop me when I was dragging it all over the floor and had it wrapped around my head 3 times to hold it while I was getting on the plane. Keep that in mind. Most likely, if you're going to be studying abroad, you're going to need an adapter for your electronics. I would highly suggest getting one both with multiple plugs and with multiple USB ports so that you can plug in several things at once. It'll make your life so much easier. Also, keep in mind that there are different plugs for the UK and for Europe, and even though Ireland is a part of the European Union and is not a part of the UK, they do use the UK plug, which I assume they just did to annoy me because everything's about me. Try to pick up some free maps wherever you're staying, be it hostels or whatever, and you can decorate your walls with maps. I also picked up a UK and Irish flag when I was studying in Ireland because I had at that moment lived in both places and was just like, you know what, this would be cool. And now I have those flags with me and they're hanging in the living room in the house I'm staying at right now, so that when people visit me, I can humble brag about studying abroad without speaking. Alright, continuing on. Before you go, make sure to call your cell phone provider and make sure that your phone is unlocked so that when you get there, you can get a SIM card, which will give you a local number. In my opinion, this is the best way to handle international trips with a cell phone. I recommend the phone company 3 for the UK and Ireland, but there are a lot of other different options that are also pretty good in those locations and in any other location, so you So if you just do your research, you shouldn't have a problem with it. One thing that I didn't bring with me the first time I went, that I'm really glad I brought the second time I went, was this passport and ticket organizer. My mom got it for me before I left for my second trip, and it's really convenient and great because you have space for your passport and tickets, and you can put some money in here for when you first get there. And this one actually has a back pocket that was big enough for me to put my phone in, so I could just have this in my hand and have every document or piece of information I needed to exit and enter a country with me right here. I didn't have to go digging through a bag every time I needed to find my ticket or my passport or my cell phone or what have you. Highly recommend getting one of these things. Something you should probably keep in mind when you're studying abroad, weirdly enough, is hair care. You shouldn't bring the hairdryer or straightener that you use at home with you to Europe because the voltages aren't correct. So I would highly suggest going on Amazon Prime or something and getting a travel hairdryer and a travel straightener or curler or whatever you feel like you need that can switch voltages so that you can use it over there and at home. Another question that I feel like I struggled with when I was first planning study abroad was, should I order foreign currency from my bank beforehand? And the answer is, if you wanna. Both times I did it, I did order foreign currency from my bank. The first time I was just ordering pounds and some euros, obviously, because I was planning on leaving London and visiting some places in the European Union. And then when I went to Ireland, because I did a solo trip beforehand, I ordered some Icelandic krona, I ordered pounds for Scotland and England, and I ordered some euros for when I got to Ireland. Both times I ordered money. It wasn't totally necessary because I could always do a currency exchange when I get to the airport or easily just take it out of an ATM. It's not a huge deal. But if you want to have it with you when you get there in case you're in a hurry and are worried you're going to miss like your airport transfer bus or something and need to have some money with you, the more the merrier. As for whether it's better to carry cards or cash around with you most of the time when you're there and spending things, I would highly suggest both. Cash is definitely better because when you pay with cash, you don't have to worry about fees every time you use your credit or debit card. And most taxis, food stalls, and markets don't always have credit card machines, so it's much better to have cash if you're going somewhere like that. However, you should probably also have a card with you because there are some hipster cafes and things like that that only take card. So you should probably also have that with you, both in case of emergency and so you can get your sweet, sweet coffee if you need to. Okay, so here's some advice that I know you guys were probably looking forward to most out of anything in this video, and that is travel advice. Okay, so the first thing you might be wondering about for study abroad is, how should I do weekend travel? Flights and buses and trains between European countries are so much less expensive than flights from your home country all the way to that European country, so you might as well hit everything you can. That's the philosophy behind it, at least. But yeah, I highly suggest doing some weekend travel while you study abroad. I mean, you don't have to do every weekend. In fact, your wallet would probably not want you to go every weekend, but you should probably hit a few bucket list worthy places if you can. If you're worried about finding people to weekend travel with you, don't worry. There will most likely be plenty of other people studying abroad at the same university as you who also want to take a bunch of cool weekend trips. So introduce yourself to a lot of people, find some people who also want to do weekend trips, go on some coffee dates, talk about the places that you want to go to, the places that they want to go to, and then just spend hours on Skyscanner trying to figure out what the cheapest flights would be and the best dates to go. And sooner or later, you'll have some friends to go on trips with you. It'll be great. I've actually found that sometimes it's a bit easier to plan a trip yourself and then invite people to go with you later. Just say something like,
Hey, I'm going to Belfast this weekend, and I'm probably going to buy my ticket tonight. Would you like to join me?
And they'll say something like,
Oh my god, yes, that sounds like a fantastic idea. Wow.
The thing about this strategy, though, is that you're going to have to be willing to make a solo trip if everyone's busy and no one can go with you. But I'll get to that later. Another pro tip I have for weekend travel is planning your class schedule to reflect the fact that you want to weekend travel. Try to give yourself open days that would allow you to travel longer or more cheaply. For example, when I was in Ireland, I made sure that I didn't have class on Monday so that I could always leave Friday night and then come back on Monday or Tuesday morning, depending on what time my class on Tuesday was. And that really helped me with getting more affordable plane tickets, and spending more time in the locations that I was really excited about seeing. Be warned though, again, not everyone is going to have the same class schedule as you, so be flexible. Friday is definitely a really good day to have off because then you can leave Thursday afternoon or night or on Friday to go somewhere. If you could have Monday and Friday off, I mean, I think we can all agree that that would be fantastic to have a 4-day weekend every weekend to travel. Another really good tip that I heard from someone that I just couldn't get my schedule to work with, but if you can get it to work with yours, I would highly suggest it. If you can, try to make your schedule only Monday and Friday classes. I know, but here's why. If you have Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday free, that's 3 days. It's basically a 3-day weekend, one would say. But the thing is, flights in between European countries are much cheaper during the week than on the weekend. So if you only have Monday and Friday classes, then you can buy plane tickets where you leave your country on Tuesday and come back on Thursday, and you could probably save quite a bit of money that way. So if you can figure out a way to make your schedule work like that, do it. Okay, so you've picked out a time to do your weekend trip, you found your friends, or you've decided to do it solo, and you're wondering, okay, how should I best prepare for this? Here's what you should do. Before you go, look up the highlights of the things that people usually do in your location and put together a flexible list of things that you really want to do when you're there. I say flexible in that you shouldn't endlessly schedule your entire weekend, but if there are things that are really important to you, put them on a list and make sure that you can get to them. For example, if you're taking a weekend trip to Barcelona and you really want to see the inside of the Sagrada Familia, then you're going to have to buy tickets for that a couple days ahead of time, especially if you're going to be there on a weekend. I didn't know that, and I got there and they were sold out of tickets to go inside the Sagrada Familia. Sad. Also, write down the food that you want to try or the souvenirs that you want to get. For example, the first time I went to Paris was during my summer program in London. I went with a group of about 8 people. Side note, it might not be the best idea to go with a giant group of people because if everyone's trying to agree on things to do, there's probably going to be a lot of planning and sitting down and not actually getting things done. The whole weekend that I was in Paris, I never tried a croissant.
What the hell?
It's something that I had assumed that when I was in Paris, I would just do. Like there would be croissants everywhere and I would just get one and try it. But did I? No. I had a crepe, I had snails, I had so many croque madames, but I never had a croissant. And I really regretted not having a croissant when I went to France. And one last pro tip, if you're doing weekend traveling, before you go, look up and either screenshot or write down how to get from the airport or the bus station or the train station to your accommodation, and also write down your accommodation's address. So if you already know which bus you should take to save money, you won't have to spend it on a taxi. And if you do need to take a taxi, it's always good to have the address so that you can tell the taxi driver exactly where you need to go. My hand looks giant when it's up here. Oh my God. In addition to weekend traveling, if there are a few destinations that you really want to visit, but you don't want to confine yourself to just a weekend, then I would highly suggest doing a bit of traveling before and or after your program. While you're abroad, you absolutely should solo travel. I'm going to make a whole separate video on why you should solo travel, tips for what to bring and how to survive in hostels by yourself. But right now, I'm just going to tell you this. I am the most paranoid person in the world, and I solo traveled and I was fine. And I'm so glad I did. Even if you can't plan a big multi-destination solo trip, you should still aim to do some things in your host country by yourself. For example, if you're in Ireland, take a day trip to the Cliffs of Moher. You can bring a friend or you don't have to. And you can treat that as a little mini solo trip. If you're weekend traveling with a few friends, don't be afraid to split up if you all have different goals and different things you really want to see while you're there, because you're there for a very limited amount of time. Overall, don't be afraid to do things by yourself. It's not embarrassing, and especially if you're in pretty touristy countries, no one's gonna think it's weird that you're by yourself. They're just going to assume that you're a traveler. Finally, here are some other things that you should do and keep in mind while you're abroad. If you're there for a semester, join a club. There's so many opportunities for you to meet cool, like-minded people at your school, both visiting students and local students. Another thing is you should make an effort to befriend locals as well as other visiting study abroad students. Try to take classes that aren't just made for visiting students. Another good way to meet people is Tinder and Bumble. For me, it was a great way to talk to fellow travelers and also locals, and mostly I used it to figure out where the best places to buy a local beer or a really good cup of coffee were. So, another thing you should keep in mind if you're doing a lot of traveling is souvenirs. I highly suggest picking a thing that you can find in every destination and getting one for every country and or city you go to. For example, some people do shot glasses or pins or magnets. Personally, I decided to do patches, and oh my gosh, I have a massive collection now. I since have put a very small fraction of my patch collection on my backpack, you know, so that I can humble brag about studying abroad without having to speak. I feel like that's becoming a theme of this video. Okay, I'm done now. We've done it. We've made it through the video. I know that was a lot, and if you're still here by this point, I love you. I really do. Thank you. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like it to fuel my ego. Might as well go ahead and subscribe before you lose me to the YouTube algorithm forever. And finally, if you're looking for any good study abroad inspiration, may I suggest that you watch my study abroad video that I made when I got back. I am extremely proud of it. Oh man, is it my actual child. So, thanks for stopping by. I'll see you when I see you.